During the late 20s and early 30s, while the chicken and the egg were still royalty, the small but thriving town of Petaluma had an east side and a west side. But this was before the new freeway ran the length of the valley. Then, the Petaluma Creek divided the town. The east side of the creek was largely rural. Houses were few and far between. The streets were only dirt ruts. But the stories and memories are priceless. Charlie Torliatt, Mario Figone, and Bob Corippo, three longtime Petalumans, got together at the Petaluma Historical Museum to reminisce about their childhoods on the old east side.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, Tommy Winglow. Yeah. I remember when Toby Giacomini and I used to go and kiss.
Is Toby there?
No, he went to St. Vincent.
That's right, he went to St. Vincent's.
Yeah. But I remember Father Calif come over and said, "If you don't give money to the church, you'll go to hell."
Yeah, I can believe it too.
I'm Charlie Torliatt. I was born in East Petaluma, and I'm now 80 years old, March the 1st, and I lived in East Petaluma until I was about 16, and then we moved out in the country. But I can give you, like these fellas here, a little history up to 16, so that's it.
And I'm Mario Figone, and I was born in Colma. That's just on the other side of San Francisco, and my folks moved here when I was 5. And I went to McKinley School and couldn't talk one word American because my folks were on a vegetable ranch down there, and they never got off the ranch, and that's all they spoke was Italian. And Mrs. Tagliaferri was there then.
That's right.
And she could understand a couple of words. That's my dad and mom's house, and they built that in about 1932. And it was my 2 sisters and my brother and I, we were all raised there. And when I got out of the service, I was going to buy another place, and my brother said, "Oh, why don't you take this one here and stay here?" So I've been there ever since. And that's got to be, we've been married 53 years, so we've been living there for 53 years.
Well, who started the bar? Who started the grocery store?
Okay. Modini started here, a bar here. Modini was the fellow that built that big house across the street. And then he passed on, and he sold the corner here to Ray Bonboisi. And who had a drugstore up on Kentucky Street. Then Ray leased it out to Joe DuPont. We used to raise these German shepherds, and he had the grocery store. And then my stepdad bought this in 1934 from Ray Bonboisi. Bought the property, and Joe DuPont naturally moved out. And that's when we, and then 1934 is when they came back with the where you can start selling liquor. They took opened up a bar. And it's been bar and grocery store for years.
I'm Bob Corippo. I was born in Petaluma up on Walnut Street, and at 1 year old I got moved over to 415 East Washington Street. This is the house that I was brought up in. I lived the first 20 years of my life in that house. And I can remember playing marbles in the driveway right next door, in the Sobranis driveway. And right here where we're standing now, there was a creamery. It was owned by Bill Eaton. It was called the White Creamery. And that was here for years. And now there's nothing but Taco Bells and service stations here. Well, there was a story that I like to tell that something that a person can remember for years and years, and you don't know why. When my parents was moving into that house, I was probably less than 1 year old, and my brother was on the way, and they needed a larger house. And I remember going in, my dad was holding me in his arm, and well, it was a bedroom, but I think it was like a spare bedroom or whatever it was that we were in. And they had the cords that hung down from the ceiling with the lights on it. And as we went by, I grabbed the hold of that cord and pulled it down. And that was something that I remember now, and that's over 80 years ago. And I can still remember, so I can see that cord just as plain as day in that house. I went to McKinley School for about 3 or 4 years, I don't remember. But then I went up to St. Vincent's after that for a while. But
McKinley School only went to 3rd grade, you know, that was the end. Because I went to grammar school.
I never
Fourth,
only went to
5th, and
3rd grade.
6th, yeah, because
then
Al
I did
Benito
graduate.
and all the, I remember when we'd go on the other side of town, you know.
Yeah.
Why, you always
Okay.
scared I was going to, oh my God. But then when I went up to grammar school, well, they all sat around me at lunchtime and helped me, and so I wouldn't get it. I mean, somebody would give me trouble.
Yeah.
You know, the east side and the west side.
Yeah, that was Washington Grammar there.
Yeah, Washington
Yeah,
Grammar,
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
That's where the
okay,
city
well,
hall.
That was
Yeah.
4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yeah.
See, yeah.
Well, there's a McKinley.
There's a McKinley School. Yeah. Oh, here we come a little more. The school was right out by the street, the corner of Vallejo and East Washington Street. Behind it was a play yard, and then there was a whole grove of cypress trees alongside of it. And that's where we used to have our school pictures taking and all this and that. But that's where it stopped. Vallejo Street came up to there, and it actually went on through up to Madison, but it didn't go through. It was just a fence is all it was. There was no pavement, no rock, no nothing. It just stopped at McKinley School at the corner of Washington. Vallejo and Washington, and that was the end of Vallejo, but now it goes all the way up to Madison Street. It was a big thing, remember, to go out and get the flag?
Yeah.
Yeah. What we used to do with this flagpole after school, we take the rope and go up here on the step
And swing on
and
it.
swing out like back again.
And it never broke. Never
No,
broke.
it was two. It was a cotton rope and it was double because
Yeah, yeah.
it had
No,
the
If it
flag.
had the plastic in it, it'd break now.
But you know,
Now, that's a good view right there.
yeah, you know, I did that a few times, and I thought, well, now supposing I don't make it around that pole, you go out about 15 or 20 feet, and if I come back and hit that pole, I'm a goner. I quit doing it.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Me and Victor Del Carlo, and who else?
Joe Bercio? Because he and Victor were such good buddies. Oh,
Yeah, Joe Bercio. And who else? We used to play marbles there alongside the school.
Yeah, I know.
All the
Yeah,
time.
all the time.
Yeah.
And Benito was a big,
He was one of the better ones.
oh, God,
Al
he was
Benito
good.
and Dave LaCasey.
Yeah,
Those were the two sharks.
Sharks, yeah.
Yeah.
We were the minnows.
Huh?
We were the
I
minnows.
never
I got a
played-
couple of
I never
of
played marbles.
captions. Didn't you, Mario?
You know, that group that we were with, everything was baseball.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Probably started 6, 7 in the
Well,
morning.
now, Moch Lucchese was in on that, was he, or not?
No, Moch was down the
He
other
was
way.
on
We
the
go
other
down
side.
towards
That was the big
Park.
guys.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was the big guys.
You talking about the baseball team?
Yeah.
Oh, there was Angela Casey, Moch, Bill Fuller,
Yeah, Fuller. He was.
Sid Hansen was pitching,
Yeah.
Louis Palucci was catching,
Yeah. Fuller was first base.
the guy that worked for Bonson's,
The guy,
Heine Piazzi.
Heine Piazzi. Yeah, that's the guy I was trying to
Heine
think of.
Piazzi. I know them all. I was down there. I lived there day and night. You know, 'cause I
Yeah,
loved
well,
baseball.
they come in and change.
Oh, and my cousin Jim Mottola.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
play.
remember him, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I knew, I used to just couldn't wait to get out of school just to play ball. That's all I ever did was play ball.
Yeah, you.
And still, I was doing it until I was 50, you know.
That's right, that's right.
Baseball and marbles were the popular games for the East Side boys. Here's a refresher on how to play marbles by Charlie Torliatt.
This is in the late 20s and the early 30s. that in East Petaluma we used to play marbles nearly all summer long, and we used to have the marble sharks and the regular ones. And anyway, this is the way we used to play. The schoolyard was all dirt. There was no pavement on those days in the schoolyards. And this is what we did. We started in and we drew a circle. Went around like this, just about this size. Just about over here. And then it would either be how many we each one played. If there was 5 playing, we'd have 1 up, they called it, or 2 up, or 3 up. So I'll put up that there's 5 of us playing, and we're each putting 2 up. So we'd each put 2 marbles in the center of the ring. And then each one of the players would make sure that it was all right, and they could change them around if they wanted to. And then they took, and you had a bigger marble as you used as a shooter. And then we'd have a line drawn down here, and you get about 10 feet away, and you'd throw your shooter toward it. And whoever got closest to the line got to be first to shoot. The second would be, the closest would be the next one that would shoot, and so on, until you had all 5 of them. But those days we were so good that everybody would get about 1 or 2 inches from the line. And then you'd start in, and then you'd get down on your knees, put it in your hand, and then it was up to you to try to knock those marbles out of the ring. And if you hit it just right when you were shooting, if you hit the marble and you hit it dead center, the shooter would stay in the ring. So then, or if it went over to the side, but as long as it stayed in the ring, you had another chance to shoot again. But if you hit your marble or if you missed and it went out of the ring, that was your turn. But if you hit one and it stayed in the ring, then you got to shoot again. Hit it, then it went out. You had to hit the other marble out of the ring. And if this marble went flying out of the ring, then you got another shot at any one you wanted to knock out again. But you had to knock it out of the ring, and the ground was a little bit more solid than this is, so it wasn't such a, when you hit it, it would just go flying right out of the ring. And anyway, that's the story of the round marbles. Now another one we played, which was more of a skill, is we had let's see, we'll do it right over here. Okay, we drew a straight line across like this. Then you had a circle like this that came around, about like that. And it's the same story. You would say how many's up, and then either put 1 or 2 or whatever it was in, and then you would take your shooter, and we call it lagging. You had to lag to the line to see who got to shoot first. And then you had it about 8 feet away, and that's when you'd lag it up there, and whoever got the closest got to shoot first. And it was the same story. If your marble stayed in the circle after you hit one, then you got another chance to take it out. And who got close to the line, it was in rotation, that's the way you shot. And usually about 5 played. And
Did you accumulate many marbles? Who was the champ?
Al Benito was the champ. I played him quite a few times, and not many times did I beat him. And then we used to have what they call crystals as a shooter. When you'd shoot them, they'd never chip. They would just make a little thing on the outside, and then you put them in grease and rub it, and it would come right back again. But they were worth about 25 cents a piece those days, and there wasn't many people that had 25 cents for a marble. But anyway, I probably was maybe fourth the best or something like that. But we used to have a lot of fun. We'd play all summer long, and then when I went to junior high up off of Fair Street, well, it was the same thing. I guess in the 6th and 7th grade is when we played. We got in the 8th grade, we didn't play that much. You know. And but then we played at Washington Grammar, and that was from the 3rd through the 6th grade. And but they didn't allow you to play at Washington Grammar until after school. You could use the schoolyard, but it had to be after school you'd play. You couldn't play because it was a competition of the marbles you won, you got to take home. And that, of course, wouldn't work in the school. They didn't want you gambling with marbles or trying. But anyway, that's about the story I know of it. I have a collection that I would say over a period of 6 years playing marbles. I have a collection of them in a great big jar on top of my fireplace, and maybe I'll show you that. That was my accomplishment anyway, and I've saved them all these years.
Thanks for the lesson, Charlie. Do you fellows remember where you used to go to buy your penny candy, where your families used to shop?
As far as the shopping, I think my mother used to go up to Calif and Matola. They used to have the, right where Studdart's, well, the Alpha Beta's there now, right about there. They had a grocery store there. And she used to do a lot of the shopping there because they delivered in those days.
It was Waterhouse.
Waterhouse was up the corner.
Yeah, up in the corner.
DuPont was on the corner.
Yeah, Joe, yeah.
And you know, a lot of people don't know it, but you know where DuPont had, where I'm at now?
Yeah, right, yeah.
The driveway where you go into the back of the bar?
Yeah.
Well, right over here, McDonald's had a little grocery store, but it was candy and bread and milk. It wasn't too much of it, just a long little thing. No, a lot of people don't remember that.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a little store in there. I always remember Joe DuPont's store across the street. That's where everybody seemed to go to buy their, you know, their quick food.
Oh yeah.
And then Waterhouse there. That was.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
That's where one of the main stores.
That's where it was, right across the street from you.
Yeah.
He just had to go across the street with his penny to get the candy. You know?
Charlie, do you remember the old shoe factory?
Oh, my dad worked there. You know. Up in the stitching room.
That was down on the corner down there.
Yeah, you know.
I was just telling, I have a picture of the shoe factory.
Oh, I have you
And
inside.
Billy Sobranis writes it up all the time as the Petaluma Shoe Factory.
Right.
And right across it says California Shoe Factory. This picture was taken across the street from the nursery where I built up the nursery,
Oh,
there, you
yeah.
know. Right across the street. And that's East D Street was all dirt.
I know, I remember that.
Here is where the nursery's at now. If you can't see the barbed wire fence probably on the thing, but this is where the nursery's at. And this is where the shoe factory would be, way down at the other end of on Jefferson. And there's not a house on this side of the street or over on this side. And then there's a Sunset Line and Twine here. And then over on this side is where the old tannery used to be there, and it caught fire. And I'm trying to think, I think the first houses that were built, there was 2 houses down below there, and I think they were built by a fellow by the name of Trontel. I just remember the last name. And, I don't know what else I could add to that. Where this picture was taken, and it was taken by Mr. Howard, who's long gone. It was taken on the porch, and you can see the barbed wire fence here. This was an empty lot here with the dirt road, East D Street here was just a dirt road, and this is a picket fence.
This is Wilson and Jefferson Street, and right on the corner here, probably right up to the sidewalk because they widened the street, but the shoe factory came right over to there. At the time when my dad worked for it, it was Nolan and Earl, and it was a factory out of New York, and they made shoes completely. I remember when I was a little guy, I used to ride my tricycle down here at night because my dad would, I put my tricycle right outside the door, and then we would go in and he'd probably work a couple hours and then he'd leave. He was kind of a boss down here, but Bill Sobranis' dad was the boss of the whole shoe factory. And then right behind the shoe factory was a tannery. And the tannery, they got a lot of their leather from this area, from the cattle, and they would do all the tanning, and the shoe factory bought a lot of their tanning pelts. And it was two-story, and the stitching rooms were all in the upper story. And across the street, of course, is the old silk mill, and my dad worked over here and my mother worked over in the silk mill. And up at the end of Wilson here, about a block up, I used to get out of McKinley School and then wait for her. And they used to have a big whistle that the ladies would get out at 4:30. And they blow the whistle and you could hear it all over town. And then the street would be just, they had like 150 women that were working here. And they were processing the silk. They used to get it right from China, and then in big skeins, and then they would process it in the dye house. This is the dye house right here, and that was two stories. One was the spoolers up above, and the other ones were the processors down below. And I used to sit in the car, my mother right there, and then go up steps up, because she was on a winder right inside the door. And but that has a lot of memories, the silk mill too. But the old shoe factory was something a lot of people don't know about because that burned down. Now this is the old dye house of the silk mill. And right here, they had about a 6x6 big vat that they kept all the water in, and run inside there, and then they had big round vats, and that's what they dyed the silk in. And I remember when I was a little guy, I used to sit on the edge of it, and the fellow that was in the charge of the dye house would come out and get me and take me in and show me all these big vats. They'd have orange and they have black because they got the raw silk from China and there was no coloring in it. And they process it all here in the coloring, and then they processed it in there all the way down to the spools.
I remember I sit on my front porch and watch them dig up the cobblestones.
I was just going to say that. We watched them from school. We were going to McKinley School then.
Yeah.
Because my dad got about 20 loads of those cobblestones.
Yeah.
And dumped it in the back of his place right across from...
And they dug all those with the horses, and the only mechanical powered was a steamroller.
Yeah. And what was it, Galbraith? Galbraith, I think, had the...
I don't know who run it, but...
I remember that.
Yeah, and they built the fire inside the big iron wheel to heat up the tar so they could melt it, soften the tar when they run over it.
Yeah.
God.
Well, Jefferson Street was all dirt, you know.
I know.
And us kids used to run down there when Pat Telemanis, he was driving the horse with the water wagon, and he later became he was constable.
What is it?
Yeah,
county on the county.
Yeah,
constable. Yeah.
We'd jump on the back of it, you know, those sprinklers that they just take our shoes off. Then they'd go down to pay rent and he'd turn around and come back. That was all dirt there.
I know.
He was a great guy. He'd stop for you to get on, you know. Yeah, it was Pat Dillon. That was Phil Telemanis' dad.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Do you fellows remember any time when there was a lot of snow on the mountains? Did you ever have any really cold winters?
There was snow on the mountains, but
Yeah, I remember snow in the mountains a lot of
When I
times.
was going to high school,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And
And
we
I
all
remember-
got in the back of Art Spallini's truck.
Yeah.
And he hauled us all
up there.
snow.
And I remember, did you remember Maurice Govan? Anyway, he got a couple of girls and we went up in the Sonoma Mountains and we had a good time. Well, first we went up there and it was so nice. We went back and got 2 girls we knew. Took them up there. Yeah, and then the next day we went into Truba's office because we'd been off that day and she heard we were at the snow. So we got a couple of days off without school.
Remember when the steamer Gold burned down?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I don't know what year.
Building there at the Steamer Gold. You know, when I was a kid, I was going to high school, I loaded apples on the Steamer Gold. They come in, yeah, Petaluma, Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, railroad.
We used to go that.
They'd come in on that, and there was a bunch of us kids, like, one of them that I remember was Barney Everett.
Oh.
And he was that real slim.
Oh, I know, yeah.
He was, what, 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighed about 98 pounds, something like that. He was there, and we loaded the apples from the train down the chute onto
Hand
the
trucks.
Steamer Gold on a hand truck. And there was a big 6-inch pipe that you put the iron wheel in the hand truck and hold it on a cock so it wouldn't take off.
Oh, my
and he
God.
straightened it out, and he couldn't hold that back. Right down, in one door and out the other door, and in the river on the other side.
Oh, really? Oh, my God.
That was a steamer.
Oh, yeah. And every time I look at that mural up there on Washington Street,
Yeah, that
right there, you see that guy with the hand truck loading apples onto the Steamer Gold?
yeah.
I said, that's me. Only I was a little younger than that. That's a flood.
What is that, Cammon Hedges?
Yeah. Cammon Hedges.
Yeah, the city council ought to see that if there's ever flooding.
Yeah, if
in
they think
Petaluma.
it's flooding. That's a time, and old Ed Migo, he lived down there just below Wilson Street, and he got his boat out and rode his boat right up
That's
Washington
right.
Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are some nice old pictures.
One here was, though, before I think our time, Bob, this is 1912 or something.
It did that
They did it off and on.
during our time because I watched him, and a lot of years after that, it flooded Wilson Street clear from
I
one
know
end
it
to the other.
did. Yeah. Well, out where we were right by the creek coming down.
Yeah.
Madison and Ellis Streets were Charlie Torliatt and Toby Giacomini's old neighborhood. Charlie tells about living on the banks of Washington Creek.
Well, I look around here and it brings back old memories. The Giacomini family, there were 7 children, and they lived in the corner house that's still here. That's the only house that's around here. And I lived right across the street. And we had 2 acres in there, and the Giacominis had about 12 over here. And that was all this area where all these homes are. And when it's summertime now, and the 2 older boys used to dig a little pond down there about 2 feet wide and about 6 feet long, and put about 2 feet of water in it, and the whole family would dangle their feet. That was their swimming pool. It was Depression days, real bad. And they had about 5,000 chickens and about 10 cows. And I remember when Toby and I used to run the cows out this lane, it was all dirt, and also Ellis Street was all dirt, and we used to put the cows on the road there and let them eat on both sides because there was hardly any cars that ever went up or anything came up. Then we'd take them down across Washington Street, and on the outside of Kenilworth Park, we'd watch them for about 2 hours and then chase them home, and they were full. And right across the bridge here was where they had their feed room and their chicken house. They had about 5,000 chickens, which was a big chicken rancher then. And then on this side over here, down about 300 yards was their barn, and then right alongside of it, the most important thing was their capacity to make wine, because everybody made their own wine. And right about here is where the truck used to come once a year and drop off a ton of grapes, and then they would take them in, and the boys and everybody would get in and smash them with their feet. That was the old days. And then Toby and I would sneak down there sometimes when it was all getting fermented. And but anyway, that's another story. This is where the chicken houses started, and they had a big feed room here. This is where they used to bring truckloads of feed in, and the poultry producers, and drop it off. And then from the feed room, these were all chicken yards. Those days, all the chickens were on the ground. And then back in here, they had a big alfalfa patch, green alfalfa. Oh, I would say nearly a whole acre of it. And they would cut it with a scythe when it was green. Of course, irrigate it, because there's a lot of water here. The water's only about 15 feet under the ground. And they had a lot of water. And then they'd cut it and put it through a kale cutter. And then they'd feed it out green to the chickens at noontime. Now you don't want to give the chickens any green grass or any alfalfa or anything, because it makes the yolk dark. But those days, everybody wanted a dark yolk. Now they all want a yellow yolk. And like I say, the barn was down about 100 feet from here, and then the buildings where they made the wine and everything. And then behind that was all feed. Now we're on the other side of the street of the creek, and just about 100 yards down here, there used to be a big floodgate across there. And when all the water would come down from the Sonoma Mountains, it used to run this creek just about level. And it used to bring telephone poles and trees and all the debris down. And the Jacobinis used to have a big long hook, like about 30 feet long, and they'd pull all those things in, and that was their wood for the wintertime. They would cut it up, and of course they had all the boys, so they cut it all up. And right by the floodgate, this was a Johnson's. The daughter, Faye, which is a year older than I am, Faye Johnson, her and I were big buddies and we played together, and they had about 4 chicken houses in here, and he worked in the poultry producers. In fact, he was the man that brought in women candling eggs in the poultry producers. And I remember he was the most hated man for so long because he brought all the ladies in to do all the candling. But they were about twice as fast as the men, so he got well paid for it. And that was the days when, you know, big cars was a chandler or whatever it was, and they had a big, and that's that whole area there. And he had chickens on the side, and I used to help Faye gather eggs. And now where I was over there, on the other side of the street, my dad worked at the shoe factory until it closed up. And then he went to work for Vonson, M. Vonson Company. And then when I was about 15, we moved from here out to Liberty District on the ranch out there. My dad always wanted to retire on the chicken ranch, which he did finally. And of Ellis and Madison, and right across on this to my right is where we had a place and a big tank house and a chicken house. And then over in this field where McKinley School is and all the playground, that was a vacant lot. Not a lot, it was acreage. And there was an old board fence here, and we used to have a little baseball diamond inside there, and the neighborhood used to play baseball in this corner, and then we would fly kites over there. Those days, everybody made their own kite and they'd fly it. And we'd fly the kite here, and it would be such a good wind, because there's a lot of wind in this area. It would go down and across Washington Street and over into the big park over there at Kenilworth. We'd get so much string on it, and
But then we'd leave it flying at night, and then at nighttime it would go down, and so we had to trace it all the way the next day. But they'd raise hay in it, and that was the day when the balers were big 5-wire balers, and they had 4 horses that would go around the circle. They didn't have any gas engines or anything, and that was a big thing to watch them put the hay into bales. And when it wasn't in bales, they'd put it in a big stack, and then the whole neighborhood of about, well, all the Jacobines and the Johnsons and a couple more down the street all go over on the hay pile and tell spooky stories until it was about 9 o'clock at night, and then we get scared of ourselves, so we come home. Here's the same darn stickers that we had in those days. We're talking about 65 years ago, or maybe 70 years ago. And we used to have them in our backfield, and that was my job, to go back there with a hoe and cut them all out. And this was the Giacomini's. They had to hoe all the time to get the darn, and they haven't left yet. This bridge. I remember when they put a bridge across here, the bridge they tore out and put this nice super highway in here was the bridge that they put in, and it was just dirt road, 1 lane and 2 grooves, and in the wintertime the grass would get about a foot high. And I remember when they built the bridge, well, Toby and I came up, and whoever built it gave us a job of picking up all the scraps and pay us a penny a minute. And he gave us 60 cents an hour, and everybody was getting like 25 cents an hour on every place else. So we always thought we were so big. I think he always paid us in cash. We got like $3, that was a big deal. But anyway, then they built that bridge, but there was only 2, this was a Tavio Giacomini, which was Toby Giacomini's dad's brother, and he came over from Italy. And he, all on this side of the creek now, he had a chicken ranch just like they had here. And he raised alfalfa probably about a block down here. And the big feed room was just around the corner there. And it was the same way. It was just 2 lanes of dirt road. And our place backed right in to the creek here. And then Tavio Giacomini's was right across. He used to have his alfalfa fields right across. And I used to watch him scythe it with a scythe. Nobody had a mowing machine or anything. They just scythe it with a scythe and cut it and give it to the chickens like the other Giacomini's did. And then there was the Solettis that lived. Then the Giacomini's moved all their chickens and all their operation were down this way, and then it was about maybe a half a block up the lane where they built a new home, and then they built a new barn. I remember when, gosh, I must have about 10 years old. That barn is still there. I think I was about 10 years old, and all the people in the area were invited to this barn dance, and that was really something. I remember I wasn't old enough to dance, but I sat down and watched all the ladies and the men, and every time I look at that barn, I think of that. And that was the thing with this creek. I mean, it was only about a third as wide as it is now, but of course now you got cement on both sides of it. But your property line came right out to the creek, and there was no fence. It was just, you look down in fact, those days you used to take your garbage, come out to the back of your place and throw the cans and everything down, and then during the winter time, the heavy water just took everything away. Yeah, from that bridge on, why, the creek comes down and branches. There's a North Fork that goes up behind this subdivision over here. And this is where Toby and I, the Giacomini's had, this was another Tavio Giacomini, which was a brother of Toby's dad. And he had, his place came all over, and then there was Filipinis that owned all this over here where the flooding is. And then Dick Ray bought it, and he developed it up. Toby and I used to come over the creek. Well, we went down to the Y down there at the bridge, because the other creek comes this way, and this creek comes together, and we'd walk this up here with chicken nets, and then we'd we'd see these turtles on pieces there was like trees and everything in it, and it was always here. That's tide water. The tide water came all the way up through here, way up to the trestle. Train trestle is up here, goes across, and it was a hobo jungle on the other side. And we used to go and we'd sneak up, and here's the turtles sitting on top of the logs, and we'd run down there with our nets, and if they jumped in the water, we'd hope we got some. And then when we got about 10 or 15, we had a turtle pen, like we've got about 10 or 15, why we'd take them down to the Chinese place down on, which is still there by Washington Street. And the wingwos were there then, and we'd sell them to them for turtle soup. We got 25 cents a piece for them. And we thought we were rich. But anyway, that's where that was up there. It was probably about a half a block around that corner is where all the debris. You can see over there right now, there's some debris in the creek. Right across the way over there is just like it was then. Big pieces of tree. And yeah, that's just about this. They maybe still have turtles around here, I don't know. Because that's all tide water. That's the water that comes in every day when the tide comes up. And as the tide comes up every day, if it's a minus or it's a plus or whatever it is, that's as high as the water gets in here. And there's no way you're going to stop it from not coming in if the tide's in. You got San Francisco Bay and San Pablo Bay, the ones that are pushing it in here, so you'd have to lower the whole bay if you thought you were never going to have tide water in here. If you dig it up 200 feet deep and the tide comes in, you're still going to have 200 feet of tide water. This is sweet anise, and the days when the Depression was, nobody had licorice or anything, so we used to come down and break the vine off, take it down and peel it, and we used to chew on it for about a half an hour, and that was it was all along the creek here, all the way back up to the thing. It was always sweet anise, and you always got that smell, that sweet anise seed smell. Now I don't know, but it looks like it's still growing, and I see it on the other side of the creek. And this side, it's just like that stickery weed. It's still here. Everything's still here after about 70 years.
You don't have a picture of that old basket with all the eggs and the chickens sitting on top down in East Petaluma there?
Yeah.
Well, we used to walk by, bigger numbers than we can remember, but it used to be population 2,800.
Yeah.
Right on the thing there. Do you remember that right across from the Walsh's?
Oh yeah, I remember it. I remember
God, it was at least from...
And then I remember when they finally put a chicken up on the other side of town, and they didn't like it very much.
I know, that was down by
we got into it.
down by the Colony Club.
That's right, up on the hill.
Yeah.
That didn't last very long. No.
That's Washington
Yes.
Street. See the bridge up there?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And right here in the corner is a PNSR depot.
Oh, Petaluma and Santa Rosa, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because that's where
there's the old...
well, that's where you got on, that's where I used to get on the streetcar. There's the end of the streetcar right there where you get on. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good picture. That's good. Oh, there's the old streetcar, one of them. 25 cents to go to Santa Rosa.
It was probably a nickel when they were doing it.
Yeah. Boy, look at that conductor. Has he got class?
Yeah.
I remember those, when we had the grocery store in the bar there, we talked about money, 28 cents. But McNair used to pay, George P. McNair used to pay all the help with those little brown envelopes, and it was cash. It was no checks. You never saw a check in those days, you know. And it'd be Pete Peterson, a couple of the other ones. They'd come in and have a little bag like that, open it up and throw it out. How much you think they were making? Oh, and they worked on Saturday. I counted it once, that $27, and they had some change there.
Oh my, that was a...
Well, they make just about $2 a day, and nothing, you know.
Hey.
Not even a $2. I know most of the guys were making $2 a day, because I remember some of those fellows coming in there, and they get a $60 pay for the month.
For the month.
Yeah.
My dad worked down at Vonson's, you know, where Barrio is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got $5 a day, but he worked Saturday morning for nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And he got $25 a week.
Day.
Yeah. But they saved money those days. You know,
Yeah, well, yeah.
my mother worked at the silk mill. What was it? The base pay was $1.88 a day. And then she'd make 6 or 8 or 10 cents because she'd done over her quota. Yeah, it's a different area now.
And that's the creamery down there, that big long building. The Burdell Creamery right across the street. That became the Western Dairy.
Yeah. Really good. Kenilworth Park there, and that's Walnut, Kresge's Walnut Orchards out there.
Yeah, that was the end of town.
That was out of
it.
town. That was
That's
out of
right.
town. That was out in the country.
Where the
What do you remember about the circus coming to town?
Well, I remember when it used to be that the Davners owned that big field there, and they're the ones that sold milk. You know, we used to go down and get it fresh at night, every night. We'd get a pint of milk, because I was the only kid. And then when the circus had come to town, why, he wouldn't take his cows across the street into that big field for that day that the circus was there. Then the next day he put them back over there again. And Toby, Giacomini, and I used to cut school and go down and work in the, well, we were only about 12 years old, or 13 then, I guess, and work down, you did too, Bob, didn't you go down? Yeah. We used to work and water the animal. I remember we used to put that big tent up. We didn't do much on the way, but we thought we were doing the whole thing. But anyway, and then at the end, why, they'd come by and hand us out a ticket, free ticket to go. That was what we got for our work.
Well, the circus.
Yeah,
When
the circus.
When that circus come, we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And
Well, you were right close to where they unloaded.
Where I lived,
You could see it. All
I
those
could hear
cars.
it.
Yeah.
I heard it.
Could you? Oh, yeah.
And the trains come and they start, the wagons coming off of the cars, all the circus equipment was on wagons, circus wagons.
Right, right. And they were up on box cars, right?
On flat cars.
Flat cars, I mean, yeah.
And so as soon as I heard the first one, boy, I was up and I was out there.
Out there right now.
They took the elephants off first, and the elephants, they'd use them like horses.
That's right, yeah.
And they'd hook them up to the wagons, and they have all the cars on that side track, and they brought them one at a time out on Washington Street and dropped them off of the car and pulled them out, and then they'd have the horses and hook them up to them and take them down to the lot.
Yeah.
Then the elephant would back up and take the other car and throw it.
Gee.
And that was something to see in them days. And all
Too bad people couldn't have
animals.
taken a movie of that, you know?
Yeah, that was really something.
That's
Yeah.
a lost
And then
thing.
they took them all over to the lot, and you guys put up the tent.
Yeah, right, all the way around them.
By noontime, they had a parade
Oh, I remember
that went up Washington Street.
Yeah.
And they had all these little ponies. They started out about this big and up, 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 up. They must have had 20 ponies pulling the calliope.
Yeah.
They had all the horses with their plumes and all everybody with their dressed
And the
up.
girls up on top of them.
On top of the elephants, and they went up through town and up Kentucky Street and back and down Washington Street.
And everybody went to the circus those days.
Oh, they might as well close up the town
Yeah.
that day.
Well, it was a big
Sure.
affair.
Oh, yeah, they let the kids out of school because they were going to go to the circus.
That's
They let
right.
them out of
I know
school.
it.
No.
Yeah, right, right.
And that was a big day. And then by that night, 10 o'clock that night, everything was getting back on the railroad car the same way as it come off. The elephants
They
pulled
didn't
them
stay
up.
long.
Yeah.
And like you say, putting up those tents, on the main pole, they had a big set of pulleys. And went down and went out, and the big old elephant was out there. They got all the stakes in the tent, and then he...
Boy, I remember they used to pound
Oh,
the
yeah.
in the ground.
Four guys, or no, six
guys around that stake, and they all hit it about
yeah,
once.
and it'd be just like falling right into place. Huh?
Yeah. And that old elephant would pull that thing, and up it'd go.
Up it'd go. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
But just us East Petaluma kids got the advantage of that.
Yeah. These Petaluma
You didn't
kids
see
really
any
had
West Petaluma kids over there working in the circus.
No.
Yeah, that was really good. That was a highlight once a year.
What about the bridges? What do you remember about the bridges?
The bridge?
Yeah.
One on D Street, it never did go up then, it used to spin around.
Right.
And we'd hear these boats coming up, you know, with the feed going into McNair's over there in Golden Eagle. Beep, beep. And we'd run like heck to get on so we could swing on that.
Oh, yeah, they let you ride on the bridge?
Oh, yeah, they were great. Stayed out there and swung back, then we'd go out again.
That was, and that's when the east side and the west side used to meet over there when the bridge was closed, so they couldn't get each other.
That Washington Street Bridge, it was open up like this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And my
This
dad,
one here, that swung around.
The D Street.
The one on D Street was on a hinge. And my dad had a saloon up there. Well, it's on the block where Bank of America is now. Mike Gilardi had one there.
Oh, yeah.
Dad had one, and the Bank of America was there. And one day I decided to walk up to my dad's place. And I got as far as the bridge, and I was scared to go across the bridge because I was afraid it was going to go up. I was about 6 years old, I guess.
Oh, my gosh. Well, it scared you to death, wouldn't it? Even now it'd scare me.
Oh, yeah.
Now that's...
Who's the fire chief there?
I know that building there, Lear's, yeah, right on Washington Street.
Yeah, well,
that's where Friedman Brothers ended up before he moved up to Santa Rosa.
When it burnt down, huh? Well,
Well,
my
they tore it down.
Uncle Peter had a place right next to it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Auto top shop.
And then on this side of the street was Braga, little restaurant, Fior d'Italia restaurant.
Okay. Now, don't you think that is that old mott they used to call it? The engine that used to suck all the water out of the Petaluma Creek? I remember when there was a fire, we'd always go down to the fire, and here was the old mott working there, and it was pumping all the water out of the creek.
La France.
Is that what it was?
They had a La France pumper.
I remember my dad used to call, oh, they must have got the old mott out.
Yeah,
because he was a volunteer fire department.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what they
had the flea in the house.
That is going into the creek right there now. It has to be.
I was going to say, I bet that, but my God, look at the size of that hose. I thought those days maybe it was that big.
Yeah, really.
Looks like my water hose in the garden now.
Yeah, 3-inch hose. Chico
Were
man.
there hobos in town when you guys
Yeah.
were young kids? Tell me about the hobos.
I'll tell you the whole story because we're down my neck of the woods.
Oh, yeah, I was right on the railroad tracks.
You know where Shamrock's at right now? There'd be 30 or 40 hobos, and they'd have these big cardboard boxes with shingles and fixing them up. And us kids used to walk through there, and they'd have these coffee cans, cooking something, you know, and walk by. And they never bothered you. We'd go down and then turn around and come back. But every 4 months or so, they would run them all out, clean them all out, then they'd let them come back in. I guess they didn't want to be a resident.
Yeah.
But boy, I'll tell you, like I say, they never caused any problems.
No. And you know, they used to, we lived 3 houses from the tracks there, you know, and they'd come to our place, and my mother would always, every once in a while she had something, you'd give them something to eat, but Bill's mother, Bill Sobranis' mother, she'd bring them in, set them down at the table, and cook a meal for them, and send them out with a sandwich to go. And boy, every time, every day, 2 or 3 guys would be in there, you know.
Yeah. I think they used to say they put a mark on your entrance or something that you were okay.
Yeah.
Because I lived down by the hobo jungle, you know. And Toby, Jackie, me, and I, when we used to go turtle
I thought
hunting.
the hobo jungle was down by the old corrals.
Yeah, right there. That's where they used to get off. Where Shamrock's at now.
They moved out where Greylawn, out in that area, because you know where the trestle is that you see from the freeway?
Yeah.
Well, Toby and I used to go there, and in the middle of the track
was all this canned heat that they, that's what they used to drink, was straight alcohol, you know?
Yeah.
And anyway, we'd see them down there and they were
there was
doing
probably
like you
some
said.
I guess there was another.
Yeah, like you said, they would be cooking in coffee cans and
Yeah.
That
the
one
roll,
right
the
there.
roll on their back, you know, and then they'd get on the
That one
this
by the
car.
Shamrock, that was a big one.
That was big.
Yeah, that was the main one there, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Right across the street from me was the White Creamery, old Bill Eaton.
Yeah.
The White.
oh, I remember that.
Yeah, but he never had ice cream in that, did he?
No.
We used to go in the back and get those caps that in the barrel,
Ice
big
cream
barrel. Yeah, we used to play with the cap.
Yeah, and they used to deliver the milk with the horse and wagon.
Horse and wagon, that's right.
Yeah, and this guy, Joe Gonzalez,
fact-
was a horse guy, and he kept the horses behind there.
Oh, did he? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Dutch Floor,
Yeah.
who was sheriff of Santa Rosa,
Right.
when he got out of college, he was delivering milk for Eaton.
Oh, was
yeah,
he? Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
He run that horse and wagon.
Oh,
No, I think at that time then they got a car with one of the little trucks with the thick hump.
Yeah,
that goes
the
over
hump
front.
on it, yeah.
Yeah, over the hood.
But I remember when they used to go up D Street, and like you were saying, and the guy, when he'd deliver the milk, he just walked. And the horses would...
Yeah.
And he never got over there and told them, you know, they just knew
No,
what to
he
do.
took out milk for such a house,
Yeah.
and then he'd go up, and then the horses,
And the horses were up there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, my dad had the garbage company,
Right.
and
Yeah.
he had the horses,
Right.
and they'd go and pick up a couple of the horses, go right up
Right
and
up
stop.
Oh,
you know, they
yeah,
could
they had
train.
those horses trained in them days, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys have ice boxes? Did you have ice delivery?
Yeah. Everybody had an ice box on their back porch.
No, not everybody. We were poor people, and we didn't have an ice box. We didn't have an ice box until we moved out into the country, and that was when I was about 15 or 16. And then we bought a refrigerator, no ice box.
Oh,
but
you
all we
just
had was the
jumped-
cooler. Remember
You
the
jumped
cooler?
over that.
Yeah, remember the cooler with the
guy that
screen?
first guy to deliver on that was Carl Paul.
Yeah,
Paul, yeah.
Paul, yeah.
Because he used to deliver next door to my brother.